welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I'm working on something. It's a customer project, and I really haven't shown many customer projects, but it's content, right? So let's get into it. On my last video, I cleaned up this axe head in preparation for starting a project. Unfortunately, two things. I ordered what I thought was a cruiser head, and this is not a cruiser head. I do not have a regular eyed handle, and I don't have the materials to make a handle at this moment. So I'm going to start on another customer project. I think this project's really going to be cool. Same basic project, just for two different customers. So let me get everything set up and we'll hang an axe. So I've got my axe head and I've got my handle. What I need to do is need to fit them. None of the axes that I've ever hung have gone on straight away. You always have to shape the eye, shape the tongue of the handle to fit the eye. I don't know if y'all can see inside there. Normally, you can just look down and see where you need to take material off. You can tell I need to just take material off the sides. A lot of people will use a pencil to draw inside the eye. I haven't found that that works too well for me, but I will show you the tape trick that I use. So what I've done is just put some masking tape on the bottom of the axe head, on the bottom of the eye, and there's multiple different ways that you can get that off. You can bang it with a hammer or whatever you want to do. I just take an X-Acto knife and I cut that eye out, that piece of tape out. Once you've got that cut out, all I'm doing is putting this tape on the tongue so I know where to take material off from. And it is so stinking close. I'm not going to have to remove much material to get it started. But when I get further down, the tongue widens out and I'll have to remove the material. Just taking a pencil and marking on the handle where the tape is not covering it. Very minimal area on this one. Shouldn't take much to get it fit, or to at least get it started. And then you remove that tape, and where those markings are, you start removing material. For material removal, the tools I'm going to be using is a Shinto rasp. It has two sides. It has a coarse tooth side and a fine tooth side. I find the fine tooth is all I really need. And then I'm also using just a couple of different files to smooth out the Shinto and to fine tune, get a very, very tight fit. Again, my markings are just right here in this area, in the very center part. I'm gonna have to remove material in here to get that axe head started. Get that locked down. As you remove from this side, you want to try to remove from the other side. Keep it uniform and even. What I'm going to do before I go any further, I'm going to mark the head and the handle so I know the orientation. Since it's a double bit, I want to make sure that it goes on the handle the same way every time. And I achieve that very simply by just putting some tape on the axe head and the handle so I know that this side is the orientation that I want. It's the same process the whole way through. Remove a little bit of material, fit the head, remove some more, until you get a nice snug fit. So I'm going to drive that handle with inertia into the head. You don't have to do it very hard. You can do too much, and have a problem getting the head off the handle. And then I'm going to remove the handle, the head from the handle, and see if there's any marks left. So this is where we start making some headway. If you can see the marks on here, this is where the axe head has left. It's compressed the fibers, it's marked the handle. This is where it's touching. So you want to remove material where you see the markings and not remove material where you don't, because it's not touching here and you want it to. So by removing material here, it will eventually have a tight fit all the way around. Fit the head again, and of course I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to do it like this because that's the orientation that I'm wanting. And I know that because I marked it with some tape. I have not sharpened this yet, but whoever had it before me left a decent edge on it, so I need to be careful not to cut myself. Just tap it in. And it looks like it has dropped another 1/4 of an inch. I will just continue to do that until it is seated where I want it to be. Just continue that process. So you can see on this side it's not touching as much, so just remove the material in this area. And I am taking it further back down the handle because I want it to seat further down. And that's sunk down just a little bit further. You don't want to rush this because you want a tight fit all the way around. I don't know if you can see, the handle itself wasn't wide enough to begin with to go to the edges, but it fattens out here, so eventually it will. But right now I've got a consistent tight fit all the way around, and that's what I want to try to maintain. That's why I'm removing a little bit of material, taking it off, redoing it, and that's why it's so time consuming. So with just as little as I had tapped that handle to get that head seated, it's on there. I can barely move it with my hands. So I've just fashioned a drift out of an old railroad spike, and I'm going to put it in here and just tap that handle out. And be careful, don't bang on it too hard. You can damage the eye or the tongue. Don't know if you can see on the video, but I am getting close to my final seating depth. I want the head to stop. On doubles, I like to have the head fit just right above the shoulders here on the handle. And I'm getting very close. I got another almost 1/2 inch to go. You can tell I'm running the rasp over this transition because I want to smooth that out. I don't want it to be so bulbous, sticking out over the sides of the axe head. I'm not taking all of it off, just removing a little bit, just trying to smooth it out. Just removing anywhere that I see that axe head has compressed the fibers of the wood and left a mark. Just so that I know that it will slide further down the handle. Here you can more plainly see what I'm talking about, where the axe head has actually compressed the fibers of the wood above this point and leaving a reference mark telling me where I need to remove material. I don't know if you can tell or not, right here in this little bitty, maybe millimeter of a spot, it's not compressing it, it's not touching there. It will, because this is getting fatter, but I want to try to remove material away from that spot. Here I know that I'm getting pretty close to my final fitment. The axe head just slips on with relative ease. I still am going to have to pound it, drive the handle into place. Because you can see, I still want to drop this head a considerable amount. I'm going to go ahead and tap it in place, checking it the entire time to make sure it's sitting level, that my gaps are even. I'm checking to make sure the bit is straight in line with the handle. And I'm doing this the entire time I'm hanging the head. But I wanted to make sure that y'all realize that that is a very important step, because if your axe head is canted one way or the other, you would have to remove material on either side to bring it back in line. But if you remove material where it's just touching, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a nice straight hang. And this looks perfect. Again, I'm not gripping this very hard, just holding it enough that it's not going to send it to the floor when I hit it. But I want this handle to slide with inertia down into that head. And you can hear when it bottoms out, you can hear the tone change. As you can tell, I still need to remove quite a bit of material to get that head down where I need it. I could have chopped some of this handle off to begin with, but I use this as a sacrificial piece because of the way I remove the handle. You could bang something on the bottom of it to remove the head so you don't mess up the handle. But then I find that tears up your tools. I've ruined a couple of hammers doing that. So I leave a little bit extra. You can tell it's already starting to flare out because I've been banging on it to remove the axe head. But the axe head itself is looking really flush. It's nice and straight all the way down the handle. It's looking good. And this is why I leave a little bit of wood and don't trim it to begin with, because inevitably, when I go to knock this out, I'm going to deform this wood. And you can see it's a nice tight fit all the way around. And I want to continue that down for another 1/4 inch or so. Now, the most important part for me for fitment is constant contact all the way around the bottom and on the sides. And it can be loose inside because I'm going to be driving a wedge in there to expand that wood so it presses against the walls of the inside of the eye. It's getting warm in here. Summer's coming. All right, that axe head just slipped right on. I want to make sure it's nice and level before I give it a couple of taps. Make sure it's still nice and level. Gaps are looking good. I am right there where I want to be, just shy of where I want to be. And at this point, I'm going to move over to the files. to smooth that out, and I'll have fit that head. Grab my file. The file's finer. It's going to smooth up the Shinto rasp marks and make this a nice smooth transition. Nice and smooth now. I won't even have to sand that. Axe head is still nice and straight in line with the handle. I continue to use my references, very important. If you flip it the other side, it's not going to fit right. It's nice and level. Don't know. Absolutely no gaps anywhere around it. Nice and tight. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a mark a little higher. I'm going to leave it proud. I'm going to leave a mark a little bit higher than where I want to finish the portion sticking out, because I'm going to file that down to shape. And then I'm going to prepare the tongue, the kerf. And I'm not going to seat this yet because I'm still going to stain the handle and do some laser engraving on it. I'm not going to go over the laser engraving because there's plenty of channels out there that will do a way better job on that than I will. But almost done. Just got to do the laser engraving, the stain, and then finish this up. But what I can do is I'll show you my preparation, how I prep the kerf and how I prep my wedge. So if everybody can tell, I have cut the remaining, or the extended piece part that I didn't need. I've cut it off, and I want to set my wedge 3/4 of the way into the head. Still has a compression mark here, so I know where the head's going to sit. I come roughly down 3/4 of the way and make a mark. I'll do that on both sides, and then I will put this in the vise where I can take a saw to it and cut that kerf. Now I have placed that reference mark on both sides, so I know the depth that I need to go to. This has always been the trickiest part for me. And this is a beaver tooth handle. I really like beaver tooth handles. 9 times out of 10, their kerf is cut nice and straight to begin with from the factory. Honestly, if you order handles from some place that the kerf isn't straight, I would order it without the kerf cut if that's a possibility, so you can cut your own. But this has always been, for me, a tricky part, and this is what I've learned to do. I will come down on one side, go to the other side, come down to it, and then cut it down the middle. What do you want, buddy? What do you want? You're so cute. Now that I've cut down to my marks on both sides, I will come in the middle and remove the last little bit. This gives me a guide, so I know that I'm going to be straight all the way through. All right, that kerf is cut nice and straight. A lot of y'all may have noticed why I have got sandpaper on my saw. You know, Ryan, why do you have sandpaper on your saw? I'm glad you asked. I now take and clean that kerf out to to make it nice and smooth, and widen the kerf cut just a little bit so I can put a fatter wedge in it. Not much, just a little bit. And the smooth sides inside the eye, in my opinion, makes for a better bond, because I don't use glue. I use BLO. I've never had a problem with the head coming off so far. And if I need to remove the wedge, or I will use glue if the customer wants it, but normally I don't. So I'm just going to smooth out that kerf cut so I can stick a fatter wedge in it and get a nice clean bond. Leaning it over to the left side to get that side of the inside of the kerf. Lean it over to the right side to get that side. Nice and clean. What are you doing, mister? You keep jumping up on my leg. Do you need to go outside? You want to go? Yeah, he wants to go outside. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to prepare my wedge to fit the kerf and to fit the axe head. I've chosen, because I know I'm going to go with a dark handle, I went with a wedge that I thought is going to have a nice contrast to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark on the wedge where the kerf ends, where it's going to be bottoming out. So it's going to bottom out right about here. I'm going to mark that wedge where I know it bottoms out completely in the kerf. I know that I can't drive it home any more than that. And I actually go just a touch shy of that because I don't want any bounce back. Then I'm going to take my axe head, because I want it to be aesthetically pleasing all the way around. I'm going to make multiple marks and then transfer those marks here so I know where to cut it. And I'm going to go just over where I made those marks so I can get a nice tight fit. I can custom fit it to the eye. So I'm going just outside of those marks on both sides. So I've gone to the bandsaw and I've cut my wedge down so it roughly fits the eye. It still won't fit. I want it to be snug. Normally I would take this and run it across on sandpaper, but I wanted to try something different. I want to try to shape it with spoke shave. So I'm going to put this in a vise and go shape it. So I'm just going to remove a little bit of material, spoke shave, and get a nice snug fit. And this is going to be just like fitting the handle to the axe head. Take a little bit off, fit it, take a little bit off and fit it until you get the fitment that you want. I do taper the bottom of it a little bit so that it starts off nice and easy. All right, as you can tell, it is close. My next step is I'm going to remove some off the corners. See if I can get that to slide in there and fit real nice and tight. And I'm not going all the way to the top because remember, I'm stopping here. And with fitment of the wedge, I do the same thing as the side that my mark is on is the side that my tape is on. Or if it's a single bit, it's the side that has wording on it or whatever you choose. It's much easier to tell on a single bit. You remove just a little bit more, and we'll be good to go. Not going to remove much because I want it to compress all the way around. Now I've gotten to the point where I'm going to be shaping the handle. This handle is, all handles are a little thick for me. I think all handles require some fitment to customize to your liking. My neighbor likes them thick. He doesn't like me to touch them, but I prefer the way a thinner handle feels. I'm not going to shape and take as much material off of this as I would normally because I'm going to be doing laser engraving on it. I want to leave as much room for lettering and logos as possible. But because I am shaping it, I'm going to have to remove this reference mark. So all I'm going to do is just create another reference mark on the bottom here, because at the end, after I hang it, I'm going to be shaping that as well. And this mark will be removed. And if you want, you can do that to begin with. Take that off. Get this chucked up in the vise. And we'll start removing a little bit of material. You can use card scraper, sandpaper, whatever you want to do. They all work well. And I'm going to use a card scraper this time, a cabinet scraper. Cabinet scraper is going to leave a nice finish on it. Like I said, you can use sandpaper. When I use sandpaper, I get the strips, about 1-inch strips, and I go back and forth on it. I'll demonstrate that on another video. But today, I don't know why, today I wanted to use the cabinet scraper. Okay, I am going to hit this with sandpaper real quickly to soften up some of the edges. The cabinet scraper roughed up here because the grain, it didn't like the grain. Even everything up. I am going to take a file to the palm swell. I want to make that just a little bit more exaggerated. I just got a half round file, and I'm going to come in here and just kind of remove some material. Getting a little carried away. I'm going to shape the whole handle, and I gotta remind myself that's not where I'm going with this project. I think that's part of it for me. Look, you're not going to find, it's going to be rare to find a perfect handle. I've got a Lee Hoffman over there, and I'm still going to tune it up and change it up to make it feel right for my hand. Everything is personal preference. Like I said, my neighbor likes them nice and thick. I like them thinner. You're going to find what you like. And for me, I think this is an enjoyable, relaxing part of the process, tuning it to where it feels good to me. Yeah, I like the way that feels. So now I'm just going to take sandpaper to it, finish it up, smooth it out, and then I'm going to laser engrave it, stain it, hang it. Normally, I've got this aluminum oxide strip, 1-inch strip of sanding paper. Normally I stop at like 180, 220, somewhere around there, because I've always been under the impression that if the wood fibers are too smooth, they're not going to absorb the stain well. A good friend of mine, Vin, over across the pond, he was doing a project and he touched on something. He said that he has always gone higher grit and has never had an issue with the stain taking. So I'm thinking to myself, I haven't tried it. Let's try it. Why just go off of what you've heard or what you've been told? Try it for yourself and figure it out. We're going to find out today. Really trying to refine the shape of that palm swell. I'm not going too crazy with it because it's a small handle to begin with, but oh yeah, that feels good. So seeing as how this is a tutorial video, I'm gonna go ahead and just tell y'all everything that I'm doing. Normally after I hang the head, I would just cut the handle, the excess off, and then smooth it out and be done with it. But because I want the wedge, I'm gonna have the handle just proud a little bit, and then I want the wedge proud of the handle. Because I'm doing that, because I like the way it looks, I'm prepping and smoothing out the handle now, because once I get the wedge in there, I'm not going to be able to prep it. I'm just taking a file, a very smooth file, and I'm shaping and making that as smooth as possible. I'm going to chamfer it just a little bit, chamfer the edges. So now, when I get the wedge in there, all I have to do is prep the wedge itself and not the whole thing. It's a lot, not a lot, it's more time consuming, but the result I think is worth it. It just depends on what you want, how you want it to look. All right, I think that's ready to go. Well, all right, I have done the engraving and staining on the handle. I did a pit and polish and sharpened the bit. Now it's time to go ahead and finish hanging it. Okay. So all I'm using on the wedge is boiled linseed oil. Boiled linseed oil polymerizes and will get hard. I don't normally glue my wedges. I glued wedges at the very beginning. But ever since I've been using boiled linseed oil, I've beat the crap out of things and nothing's ever come loose. Cut on the wedge and put some boiled linseed oil down inside. Be good to go. We got it. got it started, and I'm going to use the metal plate that I have here on my vice stand. Same basic concept as when I was seating the head. I'm knocking the handle down into the head, so it's going to seat the head as I tap it in place. Just checking it as I go. That is seated. That is all the way down in there. I'm going to give it a couple more taps. Yep, that's not going anywhere. It is seated all the way to the line. So now, I'm going to go ahead and cut it and finish this hang. To be honest with y'all, right now, not 100% sure that I'm going to go with this. Don't know if I'm going to like this or not. Finish this off with the finest file that I have. I don't know. I may like that after all. There it is. I think he's going to love it. It's a nice little saddlebag axe. Project's not complete yet. I still have to make a leather mask for it, because this is going to go in a motorcycle saddlebag. Open it up, pull it out, show it off. I like the way it turned out. Pit and polish is nice. The handle feels great. Let me know whether or not you want to see longer content, like I could include doing the mask in the video, or separate videos. A video on hanging the axe, a video on sharpening the axe, and a video making the leather mask. Let me know. I like the way it turned out. I honestly don't know what happened, but I lost the audio to my exit clip, so I'm filming it again. Before I let y'all go, two things. Don't forget the giveaway. I'm going to be doing a cruiser on a Killinger handle when I reach 1,000 followers. And I just got two really cool axes in the mail. Real quick, let me show you. From my buddy Jonesy, I received this Braids Cockatoo 4.5 pound Tasmanian pattern in this J.M. Warren Boys Connie. Two very cool axes that are going to be going up on the wall and going into use whenever I get a chance. So until next time, get out there, save something from being forgotten, and live a big life. Oh yeah, that feels good. As an outtake.